Yo, what is going on, my beautiful brothers and sisters, fellow radiators of love? My name is Jamal Pope, aka J Phoenix, and this is going to be Cosmic Convergence, your weekly astrology horoscope. This one's going to be covering today, Wednesday, October 9th, through Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. Appreciate you joining me on this video. It is Hump Day, and we have a lot to talk about in this astrological forecast. So, now I'm a little bit late getting here. It is 11:11. Make your wishes. Drink your coffee or your tea, whatever you have. Got Pikachu and Eevee here. And of course I got Blastoise and Squirtle. I just got this shirt yesterday, so. Alright. Good coffee. Yo, when I was making this coffee earlier, like I spilled creamer all over myself. I know it sounds weird, but I literally I went to shake the creamer and I guess the cap was already loose and it popped off and cream went everywhere. Pause. But in any event, yeah, happy Wednesday, everyone. Happy Hump Day. Let's go ahead and hop into today's video. We have a lot to talk about. This is going to be a week, and I know I've said that plenty of times before. I do feel like this is a week where, as the name of this video suggests, the script is flipped. That mainly has to do with two planets, the largest planet and the smallest planet, Jupiter versus Pluto. Jupiter, of course, stationed retrograde today. Actually, it happened around 3 or 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then, of course, we have Pluto, which is going to be going direct in just a few days from now. So the script is getting flipped, where you have the largest planet, the largest energy, next to the sun, of course, Jupiter, making its retrograde in the sign of Gemini, where it is in its detriment, meaning that it is opposite of its home of Jupiter, or not Jupiter, of Sagittarius. So Jupiter isn't exactly very comfortable in Gemini. It has to make best with what it's given. And then, of course, we have Pluto, the smallest planet, the slowest moving planet, at the precipice, if you will, of this new world. It's here in Capricorn at 29 degrees, getting ready to station direct in Capricorn. So there's a lot that's going on here. We're going to see some yods. We've been seeing a lot of yods. The number 21 keeps coming up. I've noticed that over the last few weeks. There has been a lot of energy at 21, and once again, it happens again this week. And you'll see as we go throughout the days and stuff. 21, 2 plus 1 is 3. That's Jupiter energy. It's all about belief, It's all about, what we believe to be true, what we believe can be accomplished, how do we believe in ourselves? Do we believe in the world? Do we believe in people? Do we believe in family? Do we believe in friends? Do we believe in our purpose? Do we believe in God? Do we believe that we came here for the right reasons, or that we're fulfilling why we came here? There's a lot that goes into that. But of course, with Jupiter, which rules that degree, 21 degrees, which, like I said, reduced down to 3, and that's Jupiter energy, with it going retrograde, we're probably not going to be feeling so lucky. Whenever Jupiter goes retrograde, it's definitely kind of starts to make people feel like they have bad luck, and with it being a Gemini, it's going to even be more so. People are going to feel like they need to run away from the answers that are right in front of them. They're going to, especially with Gemini is your neighborhood. It's the people that are right there. It's your local space. It's not some faraway land from foreign place. It's what's right already there, readily available right in front of your face. And with Jupiter retrograding here, it's going to make it seem like we can't go any further in this space. It's going to make us feel rather unlucky and maybe probably want to even disconnect from these areas. And it's going to be interesting too, and of course, with Pluto going direct in Capricorn, we're also going to see Mercury here in Libra finishing up, make a square over to this Pluto at the last degree of Capricorn, 29 degrees. They will be squaring each other. And this will be the last time that we see in our lives a Mercury in Libra square Pluto in Capricorn. We won't see this ever again in our lives unless you live for 240 plus years. Then you'll see that again, which Who knows? May actually be possible, but we won't ever see this energy again. So it just kind of brings up, what exactly is being flipped? How is the script being flipped? I have this image here, of course. Oh, I thought I changed this. I swore I thought I changed this. I thought I did, but maybe I didn't. Hold on. Let me actually change this, because I thought I did, but I guess I didn't. Let me go back in here. There we go. I don't know what I messed up there. But yeah, it's a flip of the script this week. We have our character. He has golden hair again. Staring out over at this looming tower. Of course, there's a dragon over there as well. But there's this looming tower over there that looks pretty ominous, right? Even though you do have the sun back there looking kind of nice and stuff. And you have all the fog and the mist surrounding this castle, this tower, and that's where we are all heading. We are heading there individually. We're heading there as a collective, as a planet. We are heading there to face our deepest insecurities when it comes to money, finance, career, building things, structure. We are heading there to face our deepest fears of intimacy as well. We're going there to confront all of these things right now. The big boss battles. This is a massive moment for humanity. It's a massive moment for us as a collective, because, I could have named this anything else, really. I could have named it facing off against the boss or preparing for battle or whatever like that. But I really feel like this was more so the flip of the script, because he's looking out over this and he's looking at the tower knowing that he has to go there. And that dragon is just chilling there, right? Dragon's just kind of waiting for him, but that's just the first test. That's just the first test. That's not even like the main boss. But it looks looming, it looks powerful, it looks dangerous, it looks scary. And this is kind of what we're facing right now. And of course, like I said, with Jupiter retrograde, we're not really feeling very lucky right now. We may want to turn a blind eye to things. We may want to turn a blind eye to the truth and not take into consideration the truth of things. And I think that's sort of the dangerous part of a week like this, because we can be lured into a false sense of securities. We could try and run away from our problems. We could try and run away from these deeper issues that need to be confronted on a personal scale, on a collective scale. And we will see some massive shifts. I guess the October surprises will start to happen this week, and I think we all are kind of looking into the future, wondering what in the world is going to happen. 2024 has been not for the faint of heart, and I think a lot of it has to do with the emotional aspect of things, the mental aspect of things, the spiritual aspect of things. But it is very interesting that when we are in an 8-year, 2024, so it adds up to 8, and 8 is Capricorn, I think it's very fitting that we are in an 8-year, and Pluto is at the end of Capricorn, and is finishing up a 16-year cycle, and now it will be going into Aquarius, a 20-year cycle. And we're really going to have to deal with how can we really connect with each other, How can we connect with each other beyond the illusions of status, beyond the illusions of wealth, beyond the illusions of material possessions and money? Not that money and stuff like that isn't important, but I think we place too much importance in it, to be fair. But it's about how can we connect with each other and ourselves beyond the illusions of all of this stuff, beyond the status, beyond the money, beyond the Rolls Royces and the mansions, beyond all of the need to be accepted and loved by everyone, beyond the need to be seen by everyone, beyond the need to be famous, beyond the need of all of the things that we told ourselves as humanity that would be the pinnacle of what we can reach and what we can be. It is time for us to flip the script and to be able to see beyond the illusion of all of that and realize that there was so much more to us than what we accumulate and gain while we are here in this human existence and on this plane of existence. So let's go ahead and dive in. It's going to be a good one. Let me get all of my stuff set up so I can properly do this. Open up my little book here. And let's hop into it, right? So, alrighty. Like I said, we have a lot to talk about. Alright. First thing you'll probably notice, Jupiter is now red. Yeah, Jupiter's retrograde in Gemini now. Yeah, it's at 21 degrees here stationed. And of course, we do have the moon that shifted into Capricorn. So we are in very weird times where we have multiple detriment planets and multiple planets also in fall. So now we have the moon in detriment, Venus in detriment, right? We have Jupiter in detriment. We have the sun in fall. We have Uranus in fall. These planets aren't feeling very hot. They're not coming in hot. They do not feel the juice. But just because you aren't feeling the juice and just because you're not feeling 100% doesn't mean that you can't put in the effort. It doesn't mean that you have to throw in the flag, throw in the white towel, you know. But we are up against the ropes a little bit here with this energy, I'm not going to lie. Especially with this moon in Capricorn, wanting us to kind of mature emotionally, kind of grow up, this is about, being resourceful, the moon in Capricorn is about being resourceful, being able to find our own solutions to things. But now that Jupiter is retrograding in Gemini here, it's going to feel deflated. Jupiter is all about expansion and making things bigger and bolder, and in its eyes, better. When Jupiter's retrograde, he's feeling deflated. This is when Jupiter is actually cleaning up the party. This is the not fun part, right? Jupiter is the party animal, right? When it's retrograde, the party's over and he's got to clean up. There's no more music playing. There's no more people coming. There's, there are people sprawled out all over the place. People are either drunk or high or whatever like that. Maybe even the cops came to break up the party, even though it is Zeus. But this is the moment where we start to actually clean up. Like that's where we are right now. Because Jupiter is now feeling deflated, And with it being in Gemini, even more so. And think about Gemini. Gemini is all about communication. It's all about writing, too. And Jupiter wants to sensationalize things and build things up and make things bigger and bolder. But now that it's retrograde in Gemini, what do you think that's going to do when it comes to communication, writing, especially when it comes to the media as well? You're going to see a retraction in statements. You're going to see a retraction in hyperbolic statements, if you will, of things that have been taken out of context. We also will see more things taken out of context as well. You're going to see a little bit more explanation as to what people meant by what they said. There's not going to be really any new, there will be new stories per se, but they're going to be building off of old stories. There's nothing really new that's going to be written here, right? Now, of course, we have the ruler of Gemini, Mercury, which is in Libra, which will make its way to Scorpio by week's end, right? So it's going to make it there rather quickly, actually. So that's the interesting thing about this. It's like there are still some stories being written, but now that Mercury's going to be going into Scorpio, this is really the investigative journalist that is uncovering these deep, dark, hidden secrets. It's going into the catacombs of our souls, being that Scorpio. And this is going to be very, very interesting too, especially with Venus here in Scorpio. We may see weird relationship dynamics get unearthed here, right? But for this moment, for today, October 9th, the main thing, of course, here is Jupiter is now retrograde, right? It's now retrograde. So the party's being cleaned up. The stories that have been written that Jupiter has been kind of engaging in, there's not much more that can go to it. Now it's just about the details. It's not really any other bigger scoops. It's really about the details and building off of what already has been. Jupiter is also, in many ways, I like to think of it as like opportunities that can come. Generally people like to associate Jupiter with fortune and stuff, but Jupiter will give you opportunities whether they're good or bad opportunities. Jupiter just wants to experience. It's just going to make things bigger and bolder. It's not necessarily the best thing in the world, but you have two. That's the weird thing about this energy. It's one of the benefics, right? But both benefics, generally, when I say benefics, I mean generally we look at these planets, or at least ancient astrology, medieval astrology. The benefics are planets that will be seen as positive or easier. Are Jupiter and Venus. Well, they are quincunxing each other, mind you, and they are in places that they don't want to be. Right? So, when you have energies like this, when you have the positive energy or the beneficial energy planets in places where they don't want to be, well, where do you go to find the excitement? Where do you go to find the pizzazz? Where do you go to find the edge? Well, that's the interesting thing about this. I think this is about seeing the edge that's already here. I think this is about seeing the pizzazz that's already in our life, seeing the excitement that's already in our life, and going and creating that more and posturing that. Not necessarily feeling like we need to push the envelope so damn much, but you're going to start to see people do that here. So I'm probably going to make a separate video on this Jupiter, Pluto, because if I go over it with each sign, this will be a very long video. But I do want to cover, so I'll probably do like a part 2 to this, probably on Friday, like a Cosmic Convergence part 2, where I go over Jupiter and Pluto for each sign and what it means. But, because I think that this is an important enough transit that I want to dive a little bit deeper on with you guys, because, like I said, the last time that we saw Jupiter retrograde Gemini was back in 2012, and this is before the Mayan shift. This is before this massive shift in consciousness that we had. So now we're getting a Jupiter retrograde Gemini after that massive increase in consciousness on the planet. I'll just even show you guys the last time that Jupiter was even here and when it retrograded. We had to go back. Let's see, hold on. Where did I? Yeah, so we see this right here. Let me go back to months and let me go. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, Jupiter. Let's see, bam, it's right there. Let me go to weeks. And then Jupiter's 15, 16, 16. Bam, it retrograded at 16 degrees on October 7th. This was, like I said, before the Mayan shift. And it went direct. It went direct after the Mayan shift, mind you. But let's see where went direct here, February 3rd. So February 3rd. So it started to retrograde before the shift actually happened, and I think that's important to kind of take into consideration here, right? So this is the first time that we're getting Jupiter retrograding after that Mayan 2012 shift, right? Where it starts to retrograde afterwards, right? So this is a big moment here. This really is a big moment here. I think that this Wednesday it's definitely feeling like a hump day. We are also going to see, of course, this moon hit 6 degrees, so it will make a square over to the nodes. And, this is definitely one of those moments where emotionally we kind of, we're kind of balancing things out, but we're trying to figure out, are we going to go towards, hey, just simply being ourselves and being our raw, authentic self? Or are we going to go in the route of trying to placate to those around us and trying to make as many friends as possible and have everyone love us? And, that's the thing about this. This is a South Node Libra, so this is going to definitely be dealing with past relationships, relationships that should be done and put to bed, but they aren't being put to bed properly and stuff like that. People could be going back to exes and shit like that. You don't want to do that. The whole South Node Libra has been like exes coming back. Like this whole South Node Libra transit, it's been like exes coming back out. Like exes coming out here, exes coming out there. Whether people get back with their exes or whether it's like they just keep getting reminded of their exes. There's been a lot of that, especially with that new moon solar eclipse that we just came off of, right? So, this Wednesday, interesting day. Like I said, you'll feel the Jupiter retrograding today. Like I said, I kind of woke up and I was like, oh yeah, Jupiter retrograded today, you know. And I think that's kind of interesting here. You know, Jupiter also in many ways can be this planet that can help to inspire us. You know, Jupiter, think about it, it's the archer. It's about seeing, like keeping your eye on the prize. And that's the weird thing about it. Jupiter, while it wants to be the party animal and expand and do all this sort of stuff, Jupiter is really in its most powerful when you can focus on a goal and just go after it and just have that direct focus and just be really honed in. That's where Jupiter can be at its strongest. When you actually can focus and hone that energy in and make it more like a laser instead of it just being all over the place. But generally, Jupiter is just kind of like all over the place. It's throwing paint against the wall and just seeing what happens. But Jupiter is really at its strength when it can kind of focus in and like actually go for the target. But you have to be able to, get rid of all of the external static and all of the external stuff. That could be the positive thing about a Jupiter in Gemini, is that it can give us a chance to kind of actually focus on what's in front of us and actually like create a target for ourselves. If we already haven't been going towards something, this can give us an opportunity to kind of recalibrate and figure out what our focuses are and what our targets really are. And we probably will realize that our targets aren't some faraway place, that it's actually a lot closer to home than we realize. But this can give us an opportunity to really kind of hone in on, what we feel is most important. I would say is more so like a thought paradigm and stuff like that. This could be a good time to kind of actually like write our goals down and write things out to see what is that we actually want to do, what is that we want to experience. So, that's pretty much Wednesday right there. Now we move into the 10th, and I think the 10th is going to be a day where we see a lot more happen, especially considering the fact that we're going to see a yod happen on this day between Venus, Chiron, and Jupiter. This moon is going to continue its transit throughout Capricorn. It will make a sextile over to Saturn here at 13 degrees. And sextiles, of course, like I said, these are about opportunities that can open up here. And it is in Saturn's home here in Capricorn at 13 degrees, right? So I think this is about, this has a lot to do with our spiritual integrity. That's pretty much like the buzzword that I use for Saturn and Pisces is spiritual integrity. And then of course we had that moon in Capricorn, which is about how can we emotionally mature in these areas. So it's like there could be a initial desire or pull to maybe ask for questions, ask for help. And I think, I don't think there's any issues with asking for help and stuff like that. I think that's part of even what Saturn and Pisces is teaching here. It's that sometimes to be in our spiritual integrity, we have to realize that we are not an island and that we don't have to just do everything on our own. We got to remember Saturn is the captain of a ship and it's in Pisces. That's mutable water. The water can change at any moment. It's mutable. It can go from being calm to a storm in a matter of minutes, a matter of seconds. And that's the weird thing about this. It's like every single day, it's like it can be calm, and the next day it can be a hurricane. But it's how do we navigate these energies? How do we, address our emotions when the energy is shifting so quickly? How it can shift from day to day. How do we navigate this? Do we emotionally dump on other people? Do we acknowledge our emotions and embrace them, but also do we also assume responsibility over our emotions and realize that it's not really up to anybody else to make us happy or feel better? That's something that's going to come from within. We have to take responsibility for our own emotions. That's the whole thing about the moon in Capricorn and why it doesn't like to be there, because I'd rather be coddled. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather feel good. I'd rather have, things provided for it, or rather be the caregiver. Like the moon in Capricorn, it's like, oh wait a minute, like I have to actually be responsible for my own emotions and stuff like that, and not blame other people for why I feel the way I feel. And that's the weird thing about that. The emotions it comes out from you, it emotes from you, and this sextile over to Saturn can give us an opportunity to have some to kind of mature emotionally, if you will. I think there's also an aspect here where The moon also rules past lives, and Saturn is the ruler of time. It's in Pisces, so it's beyond time right now. So there could be definitely things that could be coming up from the past, whether it's just memories from this life or maybe even little inklings from our past lives that may be coming up that we need to confront and that we need to face. But like I said, this is going to be an energy, since it is the moon, it moves rather quickly, so it's not like we're going to be feeling this for super, super, super long. Now, as this moon continues throughout the day, we also will see it make an opposition over here to Mars at 19 degrees. And, this is an interesting energy. This is a bit of a mutual reception because they rather swap places, right? The moon rather be in its home in Cancer, and Mars much rather be exalted over there in Capricorn. So this is an interesting energy here. This is like, hold on, let me take a sip of this real fast. The way I kind of see this almost is like, this is like, this is kind of like that moment where, you know, a parent drops their kid off at school for the first time. Now that kid has to, that's the first time where the kid kind of enters into the world in a sense. And it's that moment where it's like the kid has to learn some level of autonomy. Yes, there's going to be a teacher there that can help the kid in many ways, but it's the first moment where that kid is not with their parents 24/7. They get dropped off at school. Some kids cry. Some kids are excited to meet other kids. Some kids are just incredibly shy and docile. But it's that moment where they're kind of dropped off, and it's sort of like it's that moment where adulthood kind of starts, but not really. But it's that autonomy that really starts to kick in there, where you're away from your parents and then you enter into the world, and that can be scary. That's what this opposition is. That's the feeling of this opposition here, with this moon opposed Mars, right? I think it is even doubly so because we do have Venus here at 21 degrees, making the quincunx over to Chiron and Jupiter, which are in sextile to each other. So we have an effective yod here that's going to be happening on this Thursday. We've been getting a lot of these yods, a lot of these finger of gods. So there's like, we have these moments where it's just like, because I see a lot of these yods, I'm like, whenever I think of a yod, I think of fate. Fate, this is supposed to happen, this is supposed to happen, this is supposed to happen. And because we've been getting yod after yod after yod, it's telling me that these moments are very fated and these things are supposed to be happening right now, right? So what is this yod pointing towards? It's pointing towards Venus, 21 degrees of Scorpio, right? And Chiron is involved here, and Aries, and Jupiter and Gemini is involved here. Very, very uncomfortable, right? This is, do you have the ability to overcome how your ego has been hurt, how your ego has been damaged? Can you overcome that? Can you overcome how maybe there are certain opportunities that you might have missed? Can you overcome, this is talking about the Jupiter and Gemini, can you overcome how maybe there are certain opportunities that were missed because of your hurt ego, or how your ego might have gotten in the way of you being able to connect with other people in bigger, bolder, grander ways? And the Venus in Scorpio is about how do we even receive that? Can we even receive those relationships in a more intimate way? Not necessarily sexual or romantic, but how can we receive that? There's this whole thing right now where people don't know how to truly connect with each other because their egos have been damaged, because there are certain opportunities that they feel like they have missed, and it's because of that it's hard for people to really deeply, emotionally, on a soul level, connect with other people. This is also going to be dealing with the very much so psychological edge, because Scorpio is very much so a psychological side, but you also have Jupiter here in Gemini. So this is not a yod that's going to, it's not going to be easy for those who, have mental health issues and aren't doing anything to confront them. They're just pushing it down. And the moon in Capricorn, while it's opposing Mars here too, during this yod, it's this moment where it's like, oh shit, like, you know, if we really try to just suppress and not address what is here, what is bubbling up, what is coming up, and we just try to suppress it instead, it's like this is the moment, this is where people can snap. And this is also coming off of the moon squaring the sun. So it's like Thursday, we have the moon opposing Mars, we have the first quarter square, we have a yod. We also have Juno at 21 degrees. We will also see the moon hit 21 degrees on this day too. And this moon will then be in square to this Chiron, and it will be quincunxing Jupiter at the same time. So that's the weird thing about this Thursday, is that the energy is uncomfortable, like all over the place. Like all over the place, right? If I just pull up even this right over here, Mercury's at +5 and Saturn's at +2. Everything else is negative. The moon is negative, Mars, Jupiter, Venus, the sun. Everything else is negative. And Mercury itself is not, I wouldn't say Mercury is a benefic or malefic. It really takes on whatever it's next to. If Mercury is conjunct the benefics, it has a more benefic energy. If it's conjunct a more malefic planet, it takes on a more malefic kind of energy, right? Because Mercury is very much so neutral. It's all about the facts, right? So the fact that we have Mercury here at +5 and we have Saturn at +2, well, what does that tell you about this energy, right? What does that tell you about this energy? Well, Mercury being here at +5 and it's in Libra, well, at least it's in an air sign, right? It is in an air sign. And it's definitely wanting to communicate, finding that balance more, finding more of the harmony, but it is with Black Moon Lilith here. It's facing some fears here. It does have the South Node with it still, right? And it's getting ready to square Pluto. And you have Saturn, of course, there in Pisces, the only other positive planet. I would argue to say that Neptune is a plus as well, but it's more of like that outer generational planet. It does a lot with the media and stuff. So that's the thing about this, is there is honestly so much packed into this day alone. It really is. And it's one of those moments where it's like there's an element of realizing that we don't have to do it all on our own, but we also have to give it an honest effort. Right? We have to give it an honest effort. Not giving it an honest effort is not going to give us the results that we want to see or that we need to see. Right? But also not like, just always asking for help and not trying to figure out anything on our own is not going to help either. This is one of those moments where it's like, what can you, let me go back to the original and stuff like that. This is definitely going to be working on people's beliefs. This is definitely going to be 21, 21, 21, 21, 21. Why so many 21s? So many of them. And we're going to see this yod get triggered again with the sun. So it gets triggered twice. Right? Or these yod, well, no, not that particular yod, but these yod, I think there's another yod that's going to get triggered up here. So I'm pretty sure I wrote that down and stuff here, but I know that this is the main one here on the 10th that we are going to see. So I feel like this Thursday is probably going to be one of the most important days of this week, just considering all of the stuff that's happening here. And, there's, like I said, this element where it does in many ways feel like God is kind of dropping us off in kindergarten. And we have to learn how to actually talk to other people. And we have to we really start the growing up process here. That's what it in many ways feels like with this energy. So we move into Friday. We're going to see that moon over here, make a square over to Mercury here at 26 degrees. At this point, Venus is coming off of the Yod to Jupiter and Chiron. And we will, like I said, we have this moon that's making this square over to Mercury. So, the square, of course, provides some different challenges here, right? This moon in Capricorn, obviously, like I said, emotionally, there's a need to mature, to kind of grow up. But also, people start to feel a lot more, they start to feel some type of way when it comes to their status, when it comes to their legacy, when it comes to their money, when it comes to their material possessions. Whenever the moon goes into Capricorn, people start to feel a little bit more about that stuff. People get a little bit more touchy with that sort of stuff, right? With the square over to Mercury too, people could definitely be feeling unfair, and definitely will start to communicate that. People could be feeling like they haven't gotten their fair share. People could be feeling like some people have too much. This is when people can start to get upset at the millionaires and the billionaires, the millionaires and the billionaires. Now it's just the billionaires. But I'm talking about Bernie Sanders, how he went from talking about, we need to tax the millionaires and the billionaires, and how that shifted to just the billionaires because now he's a millionaire. In any event, this is when people are going to start to really feel some type of way about that. This moon squaring this Mercury. People are going to say something about it too, right? People are going to get a lot more up in arms about it, especially coming after a day like the 10th. And I think that's the dangerous part here too, is that the 10th is a day which is going to teach us, like, how can we take some personal responsibility and accountability for where we are and how we feel and our own happiness. But then it's followed by this day where it's like, if you didn't do that work the day before, you could definitely start to look out and see all of the ways in which the world is unfair and unjust. And the world is unfair and unjust. There are imbalances, right? There are people that seemingly have much more than they could possibly need, and other people have next to nothing. There is that, right? And there probably always will be an element of that. Let's just being just truthfully honest. But, it's about, what? I think the other part is that we don't necessarily know the full scope of it. This is one reason why, I don't understand why some people just hate millionaires or billionaires as if they're all evil or they're all bad people. And some of these people work their ass off to even get to where they are. So, of course, they want to enjoy the fruits of their labor, but then other people will get mad and upset. It's like, oh, well, you don't need all this stuff. I'm like, well, you don't know where I've been. Some of these people that really built themselves up. Yes, some of them have been given their riches. Yeah, some of them, yeah, you can say the whole thing about Trump too, because someone's probably going to bring up the whole Trump was given $1 million loan from his father, but he turned that million into billions. So, I mean, that's not easy, right? Well, Trump did that through his actions and through whatever like that, and, whatever. Maybe he kind of goofed his way into his billions and cheaped his way up into the billions, whatever like that. But he turned that million into $1 billion, right? I don't know if a lot of people could say that. And he had to have worked hard for it, right? So I think that's the thing about this too. It's like sometimes we can look at somebody and start to play the comparison game. Whenever the moon goes into Capricorn, we play this comparison game, especially emotionally, to other people that may have something that we want, that we desire, especially with Pluto here, that's close. And that's close with this moon, is influencing this moon too, being in square to this Mercury. We could really start to play that comparison game and start to get really upset and pissed off and jealous and envious that someone has something more than us, and that we start to label them as a bad person or an evil person. And really, we don't really know about that person's situation. We don't know where they came from. We don't know their story, right? But you see this so much in the world right now. I'm gonna call it out because I think it's misguided, right? I think it's misguided, to be fair. I think a lot of these people that have money work their asses off to get there and should enjoy the fruits of their labor, right? I don't think that makes them inherently bad people or evil people because they have a lot of money. I'm not going to automatically assume that just because someone has a lot of money that they're a bad person, that they're evil, that they're not paying their taxes. It's not even so much about the taxes. The true value in many ways that these millionaires and billionaires give to the world is the means of production and what they are able to produce and what they're able to build through the connections that they made, through the businesses that they built. And I'm not exonerating the corporations and the companies that do awful stuff and that don't really care about people, but you got to think, someone who's a millionaire or a billionaire that say owns like a massive company, whatever like that, they may not pay their taxes, but they definitely created something that provides the jobs for people so they can provide for their families. And there's much more to it than just the taxes. And plus, anyways, the taxes themselves, it's not like they're being allocated to the right places, or they're being allocated to the place that we want them to be allocated to, right? I never really understood this whole tax the rich thing. Me personally, just saying it right now, I think I get why people are frustrated with it. I definitely get that part, but there's, outside of just giving taxes to something, we not even knowing where our taxes are going towards, or what it's being funneled towards, or we're told that it's like, oh, the taxes are going for schools and roads and this sort of stuff, and these programs, and then it goes to something else, like gender studies, like in the Middle East, not saying that gender studies in the Middle East aren't important, but I'm like, roads, our schools, other things like that, hurricane relief, but it's like, then this whole thing where people will get upset at the rich for not paying their fair share in taxes. I'm like, that person's actions and their hard work has the ability to let 50 to 100 to 1,000 to maybe 2,000 people support their own families, and that's how they build the economy, and that's how they give back and stuff. I don't know how people don't see this. Oh, Kobe, hey man, how you doing? Thank you, man. Thank you. I really appreciate you joining and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that's just one thing I think about when it comes to that sort of thing. But with this Mercury here, and it's square to this moon, and it's square to this Pluto, people are really going to be communicating all this unfairness. And we're only going to see it tighten more and more and more as Mercury gets closer to that square with Pluto. Now, this moon also at the same time is going to be in trine to Uranus, while Uranus is in quincunx to this Mercury here on the 11th. So that's the other interesting thing about this too. On this Friday, yeah, people are definitely going to be feeling the unfairness, especially with that Uranus and Taurus and that moon and trine to it. But this also, like I said, it comes down to whether or not we can take some level of personal responsibility for where we are in our life and for our unhappiness, and not blame other people and blame other situations for why we are somewhere where we are. We ultimately took those actions. We ultimately did those things. Now there are some things that, yeah, can be out of our control, right? I think this really comes down to what can you control, right? What can you control? Capricorn is all about control. Pluto and Capricorn is destroying and transforming a lot of that control. We all have control issues somewhere, right? We all have control issues somewhere in our life. And this Pluto and Capricorn is really revealing that. It's really, really revealing that. And we'll even see it more so when Mercury goes into Scorpio and it's getting disposited by this Pluto, right? So I think Friday is going to be one of those humbling days. And of course, the other thing that's humbling about this day, as we shift throughout the day, because that's early in the morning, we're going to see this moon conjunct this Pluto at 29 degrees. It is in square to Black Moon Lilith. So that's the other part too. It's going to seem very dark and ominous. It's going to seem very dark and ominous. It's going to seem very, very, very scary. And someone's going to look out at that castle with that dragon and be like, I'm not going over there. I'm not going to go in there. F that. Screw that. I'm not going to go confront that. Nah. We're kind of being forced to. Because the only way that you're going to get to the new world is by going through. You can't go around. You can't take shortcuts. If you want to pass go and collect $200, you have to go through it. And that's where we are right now. And some people are not going to want to go through it. Now, this moon is going to conjunct Pluto And this will be the last time that we see the moon conjunct Pluto in Capricorn in our lives. Because this moon will shift into Aquarius, people will start to emotionally disconnect, and then bam, look what happens. Later on in the day, Pluto stations direct at 29 degrees of Capricorn, while the moon is at 5 degrees of Aquarius. This is also happening when Mercury enters that 27th degree and starts to make the quincunx over to Neptune, right? So it's interesting. We have and that's where the other yod was. I knew there was another yod. It was the yod between Mercury, Neptune, and Uranus that's happening all day as well. Keep in mind, this is in the aftermath time frame of the hurricane you're talking about. It all makes perfect sense while the energy you're describing. It does make sense with the energy. It absolutely does. I think like that's the weird thing with this hurricane. Like it's so strong and powerful that scientists and like meteorologists are having to pretty much rewrite the way that they look at these natural disasters because it's breaking all the records. That's the interesting thing about this energy is like it's breaking records, you know, and it's flipping the script. It's setting a new precedent. I think that's what this energy is doing. It's setting a new precedent. So many people want to go back to the old world and the old way that things have been, but it's being flipped. And now we have to get used to this new paradigm, right? So it's a wild thing. Let's talk about this yod between Mercury, Uranus, and Neptune, right? Uranus and Neptune, they are in sextile to each other. Uranus is in fall. Neptune is in its home. Mercury here in Libra. There's definitely going to be a lot of illusionary things that are happening with the Neptune in Pisces. The Uranus in Taurus, of course, back now it's at 26 degrees. It's back on Algol, which is going to inflame the energy. And that and it's pointing towards what? Mercury, which is definitely trying to communicate and find the balance and harmony, especially within our minds. But it might be a little bit tough, especially when it comes to resources and worldly matters with the Taurus energy and with Uranus there about how can we even find common ground with other people when it comes to our values. And that Neptune and Pisces, of course, is dealing with the deeper, more spiritual matters of things, but it is retrograde here, and it's going to be a lot to do with the media. There's going to be, let's just say, this is another shifting of the narrative. People probably trying to post a certain narrative to try and whisk people in a certain direction too. And Libra is like this fence sitter, trying to be the diplomat right here, right? Trying to be the diplomat. Now, this is one of those moments where it's like you have this is very diplomatic energy, but since it's conjuncting Black Moon Lilith, and Pluto is now going direct. I don't want to say like. I mean, I'll just say it because Neptune's evolved. Like, we may see some religious leaders start to really kind of come out about their various positions on things. Maybe even make some really bold and declarative statements. And like I said, with that moon now in Aquarius, it is, being disposited by this Uranus, or they're influencing each other, right? So Friday is going to be a pretty massive day. This is where the script officially does flip. We get one day, Thursday, where we're kind of in the in-between space. But now, this is the moment where it actually does flip. Jupiter, the largest planet, retrograding in Gemini. Pluto, the smallest planet, now direct in Capricorn. And we can just even look at the energy too here. +3, +2, -3, -4, -4, -5, -9. Not very strong, right? And even if we look up here too, we can see, it's moving very, very slow, right? Pluto is completely stopped. It's completely stopped right here at 0 degrees. I wouldn't be surprised if we... I told y'all this was a very important week. This is a very important week. So we're going to continue this, and then we hit Saturday, right? Saturday is going to be a day where seemingly not a lot's happening, but we just have a lot of building energy, right? We have a lot of building energy. The main thing that's happening on Saturday is Mercury at 27 degrees, making the official quincunx over to Neptune at 27 degrees. So it's kind of finishing and completing this yacht, if you will, that it's been going through. First we hit the Uranus, then we hit the Neptune. I think it's interesting that this is happening on the weekend because there could be some sort of like statement in the weekend is where the news goes to die, right? So Saturday, especially with the moon in Aquarius, no one's really going to be paying attention, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get some very important information that drops Friday night going into Saturday, but then people don't really think about it until Monday. Because, like I said, on the weekend, people aren't really paying attention to the news and that sort of stuff. That's when things can get snuck in. That's when, you know, very important conversations can be had, and just this is also can be when certain truths come out and no one's really paying attention to it because now everyone's just going to be watching football, like college football and stuff like that. And I like college football, so shoot, I like football, I get it. But it's going to be I think it's interesting how a lot of these major transits happen on the weekend and no one's paying attention to them. A lot of them are happening on Saturday and Sunday and no one's paying attention, right? But October 12th, as far as exact aspects go, that's the only one. Is this Mercury and quincunx to this Neptune. So, if we just think of that, it's 150 degrees, it's awkward energy, right? Very awkward energy. And so there is a bit of a challenge to try and see eye to eye with people, especially if you're not really connected spiritually per se with that Neptune there in Pisces. So trying to see eye to eye here. 2 plus 7 is also 9. 9 is Mars energy. It's very Aries-like energy. So that can bring up some inflammation when it comes to this. It's also can bring up warlike aspects as well, especially coming off of a yod, right? I would hate to see this, but it's definitely kind of giving the energy of declarations of the warlike quality or some type of event that we may see, who knows. But like I said, the weekend is where things go to die, and I don't think this is necessarily going to be something that's like super obvious and in our face. I really don't feel that way, especially with the moon in Aquarius. People are going to be emotionally disconnected from stuff anyways, which may be a blessing in disguise. Maybe actually be a blessing in the disguise, but at the same time, we don't want to so far emotionally disconnect from something that we can't actually like process what's going to be happening like in front of our faces. That's the other part about this. But that's the main thing that's really happening on this Saturday is just the Mercury and quincunx to this Neptune, right? Now we continue throughout and we hit this Sunday. Well, we're still on Saturday. You can see, like I said, the moon is still not really doing a whole lot. It's going to eventually make some aspects like over to Mars, but that's going to be really going into Sunday, like early Sunday. We'll see that moon hit 20 degrees and finally make some aspects. It'll trine the sun, it'll quincunx over to Mars, right? So the trine to Mars is nice, and we do actually get a grand air trine here with the moon, Jupiter, and the sun. So it's going to be very, very airy, very, very air-like, very, very heady with this one too, right? But this can be nice as far as like, and we actually have a kite here too. We actually have a kite here between Jupiter, the moon, the sun, and they also have Chiron involved here as well. So this is about, we can actually heal that wounded ego of ours and actually see a better way, feel a better way, realize that, our scars, our wounds, our pains, they don't necessarily have to be just these scars that just hurt whenever we look at them, but they can actually be sources of wisdom. They can be a source of like, I went through that thing, I conquered, I overcame it, and it wasn't always easy, but I did it, and this is what I learned from it. So this can be a massive learning moment for us, especially with Jupiter here and Gemini as well. This can be a moment where we kind of go back and we realize that we are stronger than we give ourselves credit for. This is about, developing more of a mental fortitude as well. So I think mental fortitude is going to be massive here. But for those who deal with mental health issues and they don't really confront them or do anything about them, or they, have all of these triggers and landmines, and they don't communicate these triggers to people, they don't communicate these landmines to people, or they expect people to always just walk around and dodge them and stuff like that, and then they get pissed off when someone sets off a landmine. It's like, you set those landmines there though. And initially you set those landmines there as a means to protect you. But at the same time, while those landmines protect you, it also cuts you off from anyone being able to actually get to know you better and for anybody to actually develop a more intimate relationship with you. So I think we initially do this when we get triggered, when we set these landmines, when we try to protect ourselves when we've been hurt or we've experienced trauma. We set up those as a safety system, as a security system, but at some point that security system turns into our own prison. And we don't see that. We don't see how these landmines and these pitfalls and these bear traps can actually keep us stuck, and can actually keep us from being able to experience the world in its depth and experience these relationships in their depth. We set up these landmines, especially within our own mind. This is an air trine. So we can set up these things within our own mind. And then it's like, we don't want to go over there or think that kind of thought or say that sort of thing because it's going to piss off that person or it's going to piss off that person. I think that's the other thing too. So many people are afraid to speak. So many people are afraid to express themselves. That's the other thing about Aries, and since the sun is involved here, expression. Can you express yourself, right? Can you love? That's the other thing about this. Can you show a love for life? Can you show a love for living life on purpose? That's another huge thing with this, for this Sunday. I think Saturday so far is just it's the most chill day here, but and then we get into this Sunday, we get this grand air trine briefly. And it can be, like I said, it's early in the morning too. So it's not like a lot of people are going to be awake for this unless you're like in Europe or something like that on the other side of the world, But we still will get this energy, and it's still nice. So we'll wake up hopefully feeling a little bit more refreshed. And, because it's at nighttime, I would say pay attention to your dreams. Pay very close attention to your dreams and the communication that comes through. Wouldn't be surprised if people are visited by relatives in dreams going from like Saturday night into Sunday. But pay attention to these sort of things, right? Now, as we continue to move throughout Sunday, we will see Mercury hit 29 degrees of Libra and begin its square over to Pluto, right? And this is pretty freaking big. We also have Mars, which has now hit 21 degrees as well. So we have another 21, right? 21, 21, 21. We have another one. And the sun will probably reach there as well on this day, if not going into Monday. We got to remember that Mars is also slowing down. It's actually in its shadow. It's in the place it's within the degrees that's going to actually retrograde, because it's going to go into Leo and retrograde back into Cancer. So that's something else we have to consider. It does feel like the energy in many ways is kind of slowing down. And I think it's interesting too, because energy is so fucking slow right now, it kind of does correlate to this hurricane, which is breaking all the records, and it's moving very, very, very slow, which is why it's picking up so much fucking power. And the eye of the storm is like less than 4 miles wide, but it's so massive, and it's moving so slow. It really does feel like the biggest of freight trains is coming. And I think that's the thing about this. I think it's like I think this hurricane is the physical representation of what we feel as a collective and what is coming and barreling towards us. And it feels like something is coming. Something big is coming. And it is. Something big is coming. But it is coming at what feels like a snail's pace, which is why it's causing anxiety, apprehension. It's why some people are like overly preparing. They're freaking out. They're doing whatever they have to do to prepare for this thing. But we can feel that it's coming, And like I said, the hurricane is sort of like the physical representation of it. But we are here. Like it is here, but it's going to be something that is going to take months to pass over us, if you will. It's not something that we're just going to feel one day and then it's gone. It's going to be a process where it passes over, I would say, for the next few months. Honestly, I would say pretty much from now until the next eclipses that we see is really when the strength of this storm that's barreling really comes and hits, if you will, right? So we'll see this moon finish through Aquarius on this day. It will enter into Pisces. Of course, before it does that, it does, like I say, make some interesting aspects. It's going to make a trine over, well, it's going to first square Venus at 24 degrees. Of course, 24 degrees is my sun. So I have the sun at 24 degrees of Scorpio. So I'll see this moon actually squaring Venus on my sun. So that should be interesting for this Sunday. I think I'm off on Sunday, so that's good. But, we'll see this energy right here. This moon, like I said, it's going to be wanting to emotionally kind of disconnect, but it also can help us to emotionally connect. But it's going to be weird, too, with a Venus and Scorpio that's looking for deeper levels of intimacy and wanting to receive that. But it can definitely feel a bit challenging when people aren't necessarily feeling this, or aren't really feeling connected. That's the weird thing about this energy. We'll see this moon make these trine over to Mercury, which of course is in square to this Pluto, right? And like I said, this is going to be one of those moments too. Like I said, it can be positive, but it's probably people are going to be feeling very unbalanced and communicating that. Especially with it being 29 degrees, it brings a lot of edge to this. Brings so much edge to this. And this is coming with Venus getting ready to oppose Uranus as well. And the sun getting ready to oppose Chiron. So talk about uncomfortable energy. Talk about feeling unfair. Talk about feeling like there's no balance in the world. Talk about feeling a lack of justice. Talk about feeling like it's hard for you to connect with people. Talk about feeling like some people just have it all and they had it figured out and you just don't have it figured out. Talk about feeling all of that, right? And we'll just go and look at the scores again so I can just kind of keep you guys updated and you just kind of see where we are at. Oh, would you look at that? +2, +1, +0. So Mercury is now actually neutral. That's the funny thing about this, is that Mercury, when it is in square to this Pluto at 29 degrees, it's actually neutral. That's the weird thing about this. It's actually neutral. So I think people that overly pick one side or the other, people that go to like the extremes and can't see that the truth is somewhere in the middle, the people that try to go to those extremes are the ones that are going to fail here and aren't going to be able to see what God is actually telling us. That the truth is actually in the middle. It's not this side or that side. It's not red versus blue. It's not cats versus dogs. It is, the truth is in the middle. And people that are unable to see that during this are the ones that are going to be duped the hardest. They're going to be duped the hardest. They're going to be duped the hardest. I personally think that the biggest message, at least here in America, that we can send, regardless if you lean, and when I'm talking about the presidential election, regardless if you lean more Trump or you lean more Kamala and you have your reasons for whatever, it is what it is. I think the biggest message we can send is not voting. Because then you actually, and people are like, oh, well, if you don't vote, then you don't have a say. But imagine, if you will, a world where no one fucking voted. And there was an election where nobody voted. That would send a clear message to those that run the system that enough is enough and we don't want to play this game anymore. I think that would be much more powerful. It ain't gonna happen, but I think that would be much more powerful. I do. Now, for me, I have no problem admitting it. I lean Trump, and that's probably gonna scare away some people. But I have my reasons for it, and it is what it is. If you lean one way or the other, it's cool. But just because I lean Trump doesn't mean I think he's the best person for the job. I don't. I don't think he's the best person for the job. I would prefer someone else. Right? To be truthful. But I have my reasons. Everyone has their reasons. Whatever. Which we can kind of go back to the 90s where politics didn't rip people apart. People voted for different candidates. They can still get along and be friends and shit. I would love to go back to that. But we live in a world where that's not the case. But like I said, Mercury plus 0 is neutral. Right? It's truly neutral. So if you... That's what I'm saying. Like leaning too far one way or the other way, or even maybe slightly one way or the other way, it's like, shoot, are we really going to pick sides here? Are we really going to pick sides here? It's going to be tough, especially with the square to Pluto. And with the moon here trining this energy, it's going to be tough. People are going to want to pick their sides. Right? They're going to want to pick their sides. Especially considering that last degree of Pluto, that last degree of Capricorn does deal with secret meetings, it deals with secret conversations, it deals with conspiracies, right? That's what that last degree of Capricorn rules. So, I think that it's very important to see that the way actually through this is to be neutral or to find the middle path. It's like picking the right wing or the left wing. How about the whole damn bird? How about the whole damn bird that we pick? Not just one wing or the other. This bird needs both wings to fly. That's the whole fucking illusion. And they use words, they use wordplay, right? Wordplay is huge here. They use words, they use wordplay, they use spells. Left wing, right wing. You need both wings to fly. You can't fly with just one wing. Anything that can just fly with one wing. You can't. And that's the whole fucking illusion, right? Let's pile on this wing. That's what we do. Like, it's like it oscillates all the time. It's like, all right, we're going to pile on the left wing. We're going to elect a left wing person. Oh, now we're going to pile on the right. We're going to elect the right. It goes back and forth, back and forth. It's so stupid. It's all retarded to me. It's all actually stupid to me. I don't know why we keep playing these games. Just real talk. I don't know why we keep playing these fucking games. Anyways, we're also going to see Mercury enter into Scorpio on this day. And of course, like I said, the moon is going to hit a little bit before. Actually, Mercury's going to hit 0 degrees, and then the moon's going to trine it. Holy shit. The trine's actually at 0, 0. 0, 0, 1. But 0, 0, 2, actually. We'll talk about, like, a shift. And maybe this is when we actually really feel the page flip, especially after Mercury squares Pluto. And now we have that moon there in Pisces, which is going to be feeling a lot more. And then that Mercury in Scorpio, now it's like, ooh, this is the investigative journalism. Getting ready to unearth some wild shit. As I'm saying, it's not so much new stories. It's going to be things that have already been brewing and happening that are going to start to come up. It's going to seem new to us, but these are things that are actually been already going on. Mercury in Scorpio is going to be a wild fucking transit. And gotta remember, Mercury's going to retrograde in Sag too. So get ready for a very wild Mercury in Scorpio transit. You're going to see some crazy ass shit that's going to come up. Just saying. We're going to see some crazy stuff come up with this, right? So I'm going to take this back to hours. But we'll see as we progress here. That sun's going to hit 21 degrees. It's going to make its opposition over to Chiron. We start to see that energy. And like I said, this is about your wounded ego. right? This is about your scars, your wounds, your traumas, and whether or not you can find the power and wisdom in those things, right? That sun in Libra, like I said, it's in fall here, so it doesn't really feel that good here. It doesn't feel the best in Libra. I call Libras the vampires of the zodiac, and it kind of makes sense. The sun is losing its potency. It's not out. It's the days are getting shorter, so vampires can be out longer. But vampire doesn't necessarily have to be like negative in its connotation and stuff like that, right? I just call Libras the vampires of the zodiac. Kind of makes sense from a mythological standpoint, right? One thing about vampires, though, they have a certain decorum to them in some presentations of vampires and their society that they create, stuff like that. There are certain rules and everything like that. It's kind of interesting. There's a reason why Saturn exalts itself in Libra, right? So we'll see this opposition. And of course, we have a cardinal T-square between the Sun, Mars, and Chiron. Oh, shit. You got 2 planets at fall plus Chiron as well. And this is coming off of a moon that's just trine Mercury. I'm telling you. Once again, we get 21 coming up again. 21, 21, 21, 21. Why does 21 keep coming up? Why does 21 keep coming up? Something I've noticed with this. It keeps coming up. Maybe it's because Chiron's been at 21 degrees for a while. So it makes sense. Maybe it's because Jupiter's going to be at 21 degrees for a while. Mars just hit it, but it's moving slow. We get this cardinal T-square, and the cardinal signs are all about action and initiating things, right? So it's going to be that moment where it's something like, yeah, it's going to feel uncomfortable to try and move things. It's going to be uncomfortable to try and act because we're not necessarily going to feel the most comfortable when we take certain actions. We're going to want things to look a little bit more perfect, a little bit more balanced, a little bit more just, if you will. And yeah, we may get triggered here. Something may come up, you know. There are certain mistakes that we might have made in the past, you know, and we may be reminded of those mistakes and be like, well, if you do that, you know, we may be worried to give it another go because we might have messed up in the past. We might have failed in the past. And we may be worried to give it another go to see, it's like, well, you know, I think that's when it comes down to, you have to ask yourself, what's really important? What do you find just truly valuable? What do you really want to move? What do you really want to do? What do you really want to initiate? What do you really want to take action on? I think that's really what it comes down to, right? And if you ask yourself that question, to be honest with yourself, dig a little bit deeper, have a more intimate relationship with yourself and God, and then that's when you'll realize what's really important. And yes, sometimes it's not always rainbows and sunshine. And sometimes you have to work in the rain. You can't always, it's not just always working in the sunshine. Sometimes you have to work in the rain. Sometimes you have to work in the snow, right? It's not, the conditions aren't always going to be perfect, but just because conditions aren't perfect doesn't mean that the job stops. And you can think about this, if you think about astrology and think of it as space meteorology, if you will, because that's kind of what it is. It's like space spiritual meteorology. And if planets aren't in their best positions, that means that it's not just sunny. That means that the weather isn't just perfect. But do things stop? Do we just stop doing things? Do we just stop moving forward? Do we stop trying to understand and learn? Do we stop trying to create and build things just because the conditions aren't perfect? No, life moves on. Life carries on. So the people that are able to continue to carry on despite the fact that conditions aren't perfect are the ones that are going to thrive more when conditions are more favorable. But if you wait until conditions are more favorable, per se, and then you take your actions, you're going to always fall behind, you know? So that's the thing about this energy. You're going to always fall behind. Think about all the planets that aren't in great spots. Mars, Jupiter, Uranus, Venus, the Sun. Right? So yeah, conditions aren't perfect right now, but that doesn't mean that we stop. That doesn't mean that we stop. Life still carries on. I think with this is there's a difference between like maybe things do stop when it comes to certain things, tornadoes, hurricanes, but we've had planets in not so great spots for a while. This is a time where people can procrastinate so much more. I know because I'm one of them. There are certain projects that I've been procrastinating on. And I know that if I continue to procrastinate on them, because at this point, especially with Jupiter retrograde here, it's like you've taken it as far as you can with that energy. Now it's about learning. Now it's about kind of going over what we've learned and that, and what, the education that we've gotten with Jupiter in Gemini up to this point, and about like, okay, what can I restructure? What can I recalibrate? What can I do about what I've already learned, and how can I expand upon that energy? How can I expand upon that knowledge and those experiences? So it's not about anything new at this point. It's about what we have already gained, and what, the knowledge that we've already gained, and how we can use that to enhance our lives. Not about trying to learn something new or do something new. I think we can. I think we can learn new skills. I think it'll be a little bit harder. I think it's about honing in on what we've already have built at this point. Because Jupiter and Gemini can also be about learning new skills and stuff like that. But it's like, not saying that you can't, but trying to learn the guitar at this point when you've never touched a guitar, you're not going to feel very, very motivated to do so, because the energy is just not really there. But if it's something that you already have done, but maybe you picked up and you dropped, and you picked up and you dropped, like for me, writing, that's something that just makes sense. Like for me, another skill that I want to develop is drawing. But since I haven't really done much with that skill at all, I know that if I probably pick up drawing right now, it's going to be just that much harder to really like hone in and build that craft. You can do it. You can go against the grain. There's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing to say that you can't go against the grain. So if you want to pick up a new skill right now and learn something totally new right now, you can do that. But I think it's about honing in on the skills that we already have developed and have invested some energy and time into, and working on those crafts and perfecting that energy. That's what I think. That's why I think this is coming down to, right? So people are going to find that trying to start new things during this time is going to be a little bit tougher than when Jupiter was going forward, when it was actually direct, right? So we will see. Said that Sun is going to square Mars, it's going to oppose Chiron, and then it will, of course, also be enshrined to Jupiter for this as well. So that's why I said I think it's about honing in on what we already have, what is already there in front of our face. Especially with the Jupiter and Gemini, it's about what is already there, what's already in front of your face, what is already in your direct vicinity. Not some far off place or some far off fantasy or some far off land, whatever like that. Like another goal of mine, like another one of the things that I wanted to do. I want to learn how to make music, but I haven't done hard like a long time ago. I had like a trial of like FL Studios, and like I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to. It was so foreign to me. I couldn't really figure it out. And would I love to be able to do that? Yeah. Would I love to be able to like play a set in front of thousands of people? That would be so freaking cool. I know that right now with this Jupiter retrograde in Gemini, it's probably not a good idea to just start and try and pick up that skill right now. Maybe afterwards, maybe when Jupiter comes into Cancer, or when Jupiter comes out of its shadow, when it hits 22 degrees, that'd probably be a better idea. But for right now, not really. It's about honing in on the skills that I already have. So for me, astrology, tarot, writing, speaking, public speaking, those sort of things are the skills that I've already acquired, that I've already put a lot of energy and time into. Those are the ones that are going to make the biggest difference right now. The answers are already right in front of your face. It's not in something that's out there, That's the thing about this too. I think this will be an interesting time for like if people want to do like changing jobs. I think that you can change jobs during this time, but it's probably better to change jobs within like a particular like within your already like if you go to like a completely other new industry or something like that. I think that won't necessarily yield the most positive results. I think this is also a time where we can think that the grass is greener on the other side, but it may not actually be greener on the other side. But maybe you go to a job that's sort of adjacent to where you are, career wise, and you're doing something very similar to what you've done before, but trying to completely change things right now is probably not going to yield the best results. But then again, who knows? You got to do what you got to do. You don't have to just take my word for it and shit like that. I'm just saying that that's what the energy is. It's not that you can't do it. It's just going to be that much more challenging, And maybe, maybe you're up to the challenge and you want to take that on and stuff like that and see what comes of it. But I think there's going to be a lack of motivation, a lack of inspiration, admittedly there. Whereas the things that we already have been working on and already doing, I think those things are going to be the things that we can find some more edge with and find some more power with. Because like for me with writing, for example, it's like I'll pick it up, I drop it, I pick it up, I drop it, kind of in a sense. I've never really fully dropped it, if you will. But as far as like honing the skill like every day and everything like that, right? Um, it's like, yeah, there are moments where I want to write. There are moments where I don't want to write, admittedly, right? There's moments where I love writing. There are moments where I hate writing, you know? So it's like there's that weird oscillation there. But there's also, I know that truly deep down, I do enjoy it. I do enjoy writing. I do enjoy storytelling. I do enjoy being able to convey messages to people and convey things in that format and in that way. I do enjoy that, right? So that's where you find your edge. That's where you find your purpose. That's where you find the excitement, if you will. But people are going to be looking for excitement in faraway places and far off ways to try and change up the energy. But then really, it's either going to just go back to some level of monotony or some level of, I was like, well, shit, maybe I did actually have it good. Maybe it wasn't so bad where I was. That's the other thing about this, especially when it comes to relationships too. That's the thing about this, because this is still Libra season, so it's all about relationships as well. So it's like, don't go back to an ex thinking that's going to be better than what you have right now. Don't like go thinking that, you know, oh, let me just go to the club one more time, whatever like that, and let me hook up with some random person. And I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. I'm just saying, like, that energy is not really going to lead to the happiness that you think that you want. It's not really going to lead there, right? So we go into this Monday, the 14th, and this is going to be the day where we have that moon is going to conjunct Saturn here at 13 degrees. Right, it's going to conjunct here at 13 degrees. We'll see. This is also the day that Venus is going to actually be in opposition to this Uranus, and we do have some mutual reception here. Venus finds its home in Taurus. Uranus actually exalts in Scorpio. So we do have some mutual reception here. They'd much rather be in the other person's place right now. But with that moon on Saturn, that definitely brings up some. It definitely brings up some edgy energy. It definitely brings up some tough energy here, where we have to find ways to be able to connect with ourselves and connect with other people in more deeper ways, and also realize our level of responsibility within this. Not feeling like we have to just blame other people and say that you're the reason why I'm the way I am. It's like, no. I think we react and respond. We set up those triggers. We set up those things around ourselves. Those little pitfalls and those little traps and whatever like that. So I think we have to take some personal responsibility for all that, and not constantly pointing the finger and blaming other people and shit. Well, Venus and Scorpio can be very passionate, but it also can be very, very icy. And dealing with the Uranus and Taurus is probably going to feel more icy, a little bit more isolating, a little bit more like, don't get close to me. But it's about, how can we take responsibility for our role in these relationships? How can we look at what we have done? It's like, okay, well, I definitely did that thing. I didn't take the trash out. I didn't do the dishes. And that's basic shit, right? But it's like, yeah, I am a little bit hot and cold when it comes to that. Yeah, I don't always communicate the best. Yeah, I don't really show enthusiasm when I'm hanging out with their family. Things like that. Like, it's just, those are the things we have to learn how to take personal responsibility there. Some people, it's hard for them to do that. Some people are blind to doing that. And remember, at this whole time, Mars is in Cancer. Mars in Cancer is throwing temper tantrums. People are going to be throwing temper tantrums. And I don't know if you've already noticed it with Mars in Cancer, but it's temper tantrums galore. Right? It's like big baby energy. Like straight up. Like it's freaking... what's his... oh my gosh. Hold on. It's... Let's see. I don't freaking remember his name. It's like... no. It's not Baby Looney Tunes. It's like a big chicken. It's like a, he has like a baby. Is it Big Louie? Is that what it is? Is it, hold on. Baby Louie? Let's see, hold on. I think that's his name. Yeah, oh, Huey. That's what it is. It's Huey. That's what it is. That's what it is. That's what it is. Yeah. Yeah. Hold on. This is Mars and Cancer. I'm about to show you guys what Mars and Cancer is. Let's see. Hold on, let me. Google Chrome. This guy right here. Yeah, that's. Yeah. Baby Huey. Almost damn near a grown adult, you know. But this is Mars and Cancer right here. Right? It's baby Huey energy. It's massive. Probably could take care of himself, but he just chooses to identify as a baby. And he doesn't grow up. And that's what Mars and Cancer is. There's so many people that identify as this, where it's like they downplay their ability to be mature, they downplay their ability to grow up, they downplay their ability to take responsibility, they downplay their ability to do things. They just choose to be a baby. They choose this lifestyle. And that's where so many people are doing this. They choose to not take personal responsibility, right? And that's where we are, right? It's that baby Huey energy. It's like, so are you gonna go in that direction and stuff? Or I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So that's just kind of let me say about this. So, and anyways, let's move on to Tuesday, right? We'll see that moon continue throughout Aquarius, and then we hit Tuesday. Tuesday's a pretty interesting day. It's an interesting day. It's going to be mostly the moon doing aspects, but we will see Venus that's going to hit 27 degrees. So it will actually trine over to this Neptune. We have that moon, of course, here at 23 degrees. It's, in quincunx to this Sun. It's in quincunx to Juno here. We'll see it conjunct here, Neptune at 27 degrees, while Venus is 27 degrees. So we do have that trine going on as well. And, that's going to definitely amplify the moon's energy and amplify maybe some illusions that we have around our relationships and where our role of things are in. It's interesting that the moon will trine Mars before it gets to this Venus, so it's kind of a grand water trine, but it's kind of weak because it's a 5-degree orb, so it's not really that strong, but it kind of will feel it throughout the day, if you will. It says not super strong. By this time, Mercury is at 3 degrees of Scorpio. So I think this is when things are going to start to get more unearthed and everything. The sun's coming off the opposition to Chiron, and it's entering its last week here in Libra before we get to Scorpio season. So, I think, and let's look at the scores. I like looking at the scores because it kind of just lets me know how things are kind of going and stuff. We have, of course, +2, +1 for both, Saturn and the moon, right? So that's where we really need to kind of go towards more, is that kind of energy. Venus -1, Jupiter -2, the Sun -3, Mars -3, Mercury -5. So that does bring, and especially with Mercury being a Scorpio, it does bring a little bit more of a psychological kind of edge to things. So it's like mental health is definitely going to be coming up a lot more. And if you are dealing with mental health and you're not seeking some way to kind of work through it, whether it's meditation, whether it's therapy, whether it's, finding those solutions, then you aren't going to necessarily have a good time with this. You're not necessarily going to have a good time with this because this is about how can we take the personal responsibility and, have some level of accountability for our own lives and not constantly blaming other people and pointing fingers. It's about spiritual integrity here. say it a lot. I probably sound like a broken record to you guys, but it's the reason why I keep saying it. So, but it can get kind of depressing. I'm not gonna lie, this energy can kind of get a little depressing because people are probably gonna be like, what's the point? They can feel that the energy is coming. They can feel that things are shifting. They can feel like this storm is coming. Just in general, we had the physical representation of it with this hurricane, and this will be like the aftermath of it. Things are going to start to come out a little bit more. Mercury and Scorpio too. This is going to, shoot, honestly, this is like when people will probably figure out, unfortunately, you know, who survived the storm, who didn't survive the storm. That's the other part about this. The moon on Neptune, of course, which is like the media and trining over to this Venus. It's going to be interesting. You know, it's going to be interesting. The aftermath of this physical storm with the hurricane, but also just in general. What it means on an emotional, what it means on a spiritual level. Like the hurricane is just a physical representation of it. What does that hurricane look like on other planes and other dimensions, and how that energy is affecting us? That's the other part about this. That's the unseen part of this, right? And that's Pisces. That's that unseen, mystical, out there world. I'm a Pisces moon, so I definitely feel into this. I have my moon at 28 degrees of Pisces, so Neptune has been oscillating over my moon. So that's been fun. So, you know, we'll see that here. And then, of course, we'll have that moon shift into Aries, right? Which is going to want us to kind of start, maybe bring up some action, you know, feeling like what's some action that we feel like we can take here, right? But it's only going to be, you know, for like the last, you know, 6 hours of the day. And the moon's just going to be just right here at the beginning of Aries, right? So, interesting enough, it does make a quincunx over to Mercury here at 3 degrees, like right before the end of the day here on Tuesday. But Venus is still enshrined to this Neptune, and it'll be coming off of the trine shortly, but it's still enshrined pretty much to Neptune all day. This is also happening when the sun hits 23 degrees and it actually makes a conjunction to Juno. So I think this is one of those moments too, especially with the moon on the North Node. This is going to be one of those moments where we actually find out what we are truly committed to, who we are really committed to, and it's going to uncover a lot here. Juno is, that's Jupiter's wife, right? And Juno had to put up with a lot of shit. Juno has to put up with a lot of Jupiter's antics, but Jupiter's retrograde in Gemini, right? Jupiter's, I guess you could say he's in timeout, or he's cleaning up the party, and it's like time for Jupiter to kind of like grow up in a sense here. Is like actually like clean up and do the work, if you will. But the sun on Juno to finish off the week, I think is kind of poetic because it's going to be asking us like, okay, are you really committed to this? Are you ready to go to that tower? Or are you just going to, you know, go back into the forest and meditate? And so I think for the light workers out there, this is about actually applying the knowledge gained through these meditations and all this sort of stuff. It's like, all right, can you actually take your head out of the clouds and actually integrate some of these things in a practical way and actually do the work? You know what I'm saying? So I think it's about, I think sometimes we can be too into the matrix, and then sometimes we can be too into the clouds and too into the spiritual. It's about finding the synthesis of those things and bringing that together, right? And I think it's about whether or not we can integrate that and actually start to do the work and actually connect to people and actually, you know, raise the vibration of the planet and not just chill with our gemstones and our candles and just meditate all the time and not really connect to people. And there's like a spiritual egotism as well here that I've kind of noticed with people. And these are the kind of energies that will humble us. These are the kind of energies that will really ask us if we are really actually going to do the work, or if we're just going to sit and meditate in the mountains all day. It's about actually learning how to apply this sort of stuff. So it's like, all right, are we committed? Because I'd say Juno's also about commitments, right? Are you committed? Not just when things are going great and positive and well aspected, but when things are neutral and when things are not so well aspected, when things are not so positive, when things are a little bit tougher, when things are a little bit foggier, when things are a little bit weirder. Can we commit in these areas too? And in these times, that is really what's going to make the difference here. So get some cards going. So this one's a little bit longer, as you guys can tell. So, but like I said, I do want to make another video, like I said, probably like a part 2 or something like that, where I go over, you know, I guess what I feel is the most important transit of this week for all the 12 signs, and maybe that's what I end up doing. Maybe that's like the new format and stuff like that, instead of making a daily video. But I still want to make other content for you guys still. So that's the other part. So I will eventually, you know, get around to that and figure out what exactly I'm wanting to do. But I definitely want to do something for the Jupiter retrograde, Pluto going direct. So for every sign, what is the flipping of the script? You know, what is the thing that we're kind of going back to the drawing board with Jupiter retrograding in Gemini, and what is the tower? What is the big thing that we are confronting and we're finally going to be kind of getting through with Pluto going direct in Capricorn? Right, so now so that'll probably be like a Friday thing when I do that. So, but this card right here is going to be for all the signs. I do have the Temperance card in reverse, so I think that's really about, you know, Temperance is all about finding the balance and being able to adapt to our situations. But I think this is about it being reversed. It's like, I'm being reminded of a quote. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a sick society. And I think that's something that people are realizing, is that they are adjusted to a sick society. And it's going to take time to heal this shit. But yeah, it's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a sick society. And that's a crazy realization to have. And I think that's something that people are going to start to realize more and more as this year progresses, right? Then again, some people may not actually care. It's kind of like, you know what? I know that this steak is fake, but it tastes so good, I don't care. It's a whole Matrix reference right there. So yeah, I had the Queen of Swords in reverse. I also have that followed by the King of Cups upright. So it's interesting. I think this is coming down to, we need to find some balance between the divine masculine and the divine feminine. I think the challenge here is that the divine masculine needs to connect more to its emotional aspects and its emotional state, but the divine feminine needs to speak up and needs to really learn, like to really communicate its needs and wants a little bit more. And there's some imbalance here. That's why I think why the Temperance card is here. There's imbalance between the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Because I have a King of Cups and then the Queen of Swords. So it's like, you know, the King of Cups is like, are we being too emotional here? You know what I'm saying? Like too emotional and not enough logic. And then it's like, it's interesting. There's definitely like this flipping of the script where it's like, and I will just come right out and say it. It's like they, whoever they are, like South Park they, it's like they're trying to turn, you know, men into women and women into men and stuff like that. But what about if both were just, you know, in their divine masculine, in their divine feminine? Because we all have that energy within us. We all have divine masculine. We all have divine feminine. But I think it's like, it's so out of balance right now that it's hard for people to really, you know, step into those natural roles and those natural positions for them, right? For them. I think it's about trying to find the balance there, you know. So, yeah, I have the Page of Swords upright. This is an inquisitive fellow that wants to learn, if you will. He wants to learn. He's thinking about something, you know. What are we trying to learn? Well, we have the Seven of Cups. So I think we feel like there's like a lot of options here. You know, maybe we are overwhelmed by the energy and overwhelmed by the options that are available to us. So I think it's about, you know, we have to, you know, we're contemplating on what route to pick, if you will. We're contemplating on what route to pick. Now, I'm drawing one more card for that particular. Well, I have the Queen of Cups, right? So I think this is about, you know, I think the divine feminine within all of us, but I think the divine feminine needs to reconnect back to their emotions and reconnect back to their sensitivities and realize that their sensitivities aren't a sign of weakness, that they actually are a sign of strength, right? And I think that's how we can kind of get through this moment here. I think the divine feminine has seen its sensitivities for the longest time as... It went blurry. I think the divine feminine has seen its sensitivities as you know, as a weakness, when truly it's actually a strength. I think a lot of us have been deluded into seeing that our sensitivities are a sign of weakness when they're not. They're actually a sign of strength. They're a sign that, you know, we're not just hardened, we're not just robots. It's a sign that we're human, right? I think that's the other part too here, is that like there's a human element to this that I feel like is being forgotten. It's like we're slowly being turned into AI and robots. And not that AI is inherently evil, because I think AI can be used for good or it can be used for bad, right? But I think there's a whole human element here where people aren't using their minds and they've outsourced their minds to something that's external to them, like the internet or these devices and all that sort of stuff. And really, it's all within. Just think about it. Isn't it interesting how you can sing a song in your head and it sounds perfect? I can sing Alicia Keys in my head and it sounds amazing, right? Everyone's a great singer in their head. Some people have the ability to translate that outside of their head, and that's a skill. I like to argue to think that probably anybody with the right training can do that, but some people are just natural at it, right? So I think that that's interesting. Our minds are so much more powerful than we give it credit for. I think some people are afraid of their mind. They run away from their mind. They run away from their emotions, and they run away from the human aspect of themselves. People are trading the human aspect of themselves for something that they feel is going to be more comfortable, something that's like, you know, that's less messy. Because let's be real, being a human is messy. And I think a lot of people are they don't want to be involved in that mess. They don't want to be in that. They think it's better to not be that. I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. That the true greatest technology on this planet is this human body. It's the greatest tool that we have. So we need to utilize it. So I'll draw one more card for everybody. I have the Five of Cups in reverse. It's time to stop crying over spilled milk and realize what we already have in front of us. I love this card, especially when it's in reverse, because this always talks about lamenting over some type of loss, but all of the cups didn't fall over. In this case, it's the eggs. The owl's looking like crap. A snake got into my eggs and killed 3 of my babies. Well, you still have 2 left. It sucks. Sometimes it feels like we lose more than we gain. But you just never know what those 2 eggs, what could come from those 2 eggs, and the abundance that can come from those. So I think it's about realizing what we already have and not lamenting over what has been lost. It sucks, it hurts, but we still have something there, and that is what we need to focus on, and that is something to be grateful for. That's going to do it, though, for your weekly astrology horoscope cosmic convergence. This is a flip of the script. We're going to see some interesting stuff come out. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a powerful time. So, y'all take care. Stay blessed. Have a wonderful week. I will see you all very, very soon. Stay blessed. Peace.